Hello everybody, thank you very much for being here. Let's talk about you and Uranus retrograde. So Uranus enters the Aries zone on April the 15th, 2017, which is already done because now it's like today's the 22nd. Then it's going retrograde from the August the 2nd, and then it's going direct on January the 2nd, 2018, and leaves the Aries zone by April the 19th, 2018. So this is a this is a long-term thing for this year. So throughout 2017, basically Uranus is in a weird place. Let's talk about you, let's talk about this and what it means to me. I feel that Uranus makes us feel during this time of shadow until August almost like on a horse that won't move, or we are galloping towards something but the horizon is not seen. We might actually fascinate ourselves with lots of different things that can't be. I feel the beginning of shadow will, and actually the end of shadow actually as well, as it heads towards August, will entice us or discover in us this need to become more for doing something that we will not eventuate in. So for example, you might see that there is a human beside you that is really not suited to you or is not interested in you. Or you might see that this job is incredibly polarizing, but you still want to give it a go. Or maybe you might find that there's lots of different people in your life that are so intimidating, and yet you want to discover yourself through these things. This is a very, very interesting month, especially for women, because Uranus can sometimes represent the man in the chart as well as other planets, other masculine planets for a female. So for men as well, it can be as well if his feminine energy, the feminine energy in the chart is entwined with Uranus, or if there is like a lot of Scorpio and like need to change, need to shift in the chart. So with relationships and relating to people, Uranus might actually swing you into a deal. And a deal could be as such. Say for example, I am so-and-so, you are so-and-so. I want to learn how to craft a life just like you, and the person will be like, well, I'm not interested, but you'll still keep on trying. Or like, I want to know how to be as beautiful as you, or I want to see how you did this or how you do that. So there's a lot of attraction based on what people have mastered and what people have learned to do. So for this kind of transit, Uranus is not very sexy in the future. So what you might feel is really sexy and sensual now about a job or a career or a person will not really I guess define you later. So you might think, oh my gosh, like this man is for example really gorgeous and he like plays a lot of hockey, and I really like guys suddenly that are really, really strong, and perhaps by being his girlfriend, going to his games, I'll get something similar myself. It's about learning from another and wanting this person to usher you into some kind of a dimension where you might also have the mastery over what they got. For this reason, during this time, Venus is strong. Venus is strong again. She's out of retrograde, but Uranus will not. Beautiful. Uranus will not usher in the most perfect relationships unless you have like a Uranus-Venus conjunction, or you've got a Uranus-Sun. Something about you is very Uranian already. Say for example, if you're very much a nerd and you really like to obsess over something, or you really enjoy some kind of a craft, and then you find somebody who mastered that craft or is really obsessive over something that you like too, there is a chance that you could get together and things will go fine. But generally, don't deny yourself. So for example, if you are somebody who loves coffee and they've got a coffee shop, and you might actually want to be on their bandwagon, or you might want to be enticed by what they have, or the client base that they have, or how far they've gotten in their life. But also look at yourself, because you might actually not want to be there for a long time. And quite often when we look at another person during these kind of transits and we fall in love with what they are, what they've achieved, we might know very, very quickly that we don't want it as an achievement, or that we've actually got it already, or we're actually not in the right path to be with that person forever. But what this is really good for is masters, teachers, gurus, any kind of colleges, any kind of work with another who's really, really amazing at what they do. So for example, if you got Uranus really prevalent in your chart as very, very strong and very bossy, for example, you got like a Martian sort of aspect to your Uranus, or a Plutonian aspect, you may actually find that this person in your life will want to teach you something really, really maybe badly, or really, really strongly, or even aggressively. During this time, you might actually find yourself somebody who's got a very strong ego, and they want to maybe crush you during the process of tuition, or during the process of integration. So it might be really hard to see, but it must be seen. Say if you fall in love with somebody and they actually turn out to be far too strong, or they want to diminish you or minuscule what you are in order to get their way. That's really hard to see, but it has to be shown. And also really, really keep in touch with yourself and your heart during this time, because sometimes the mastery over a craft or a mastery over yourself comes first, and the personal aspect of your life comes second or last. So really have a look. Perhaps you're burning out at your job, perhaps you want to be around people who are not worthy of your time, or don't have a lot of love and joy to give to you, except like lots of strong advice and things like that. So also with you, if you do tend to be very Uranian yourself, you could either be replaced by somebody else, this is likely, who is really, really also awesome at what they do, that's likely. Or you might want to be replacing another person. If you've got a very strong Uranus in your chart, you may want to be in a competition or ridicule of another person, or you will be ridiculed by another person who's very strong at their craft. If you are working on something over time and you're really trying to outdo the competition, or you're really, really shifting through some kind of craft, you know, say you're a graphic designer or like a blogger and you're like so good at it, and you're trying to outdo the competition, outdo anybody else, and make sure that you're not outdone. Sometimes it can create a crisis. For example, you might get really sore, you might get really, really unwell, because this type of energy, if it is too overbearing, it can become like a mindful how can I say, a mindful prison. But it's not like a prison, it's like you don't know that you're imprisoned, but you are. So it's really good to take it lightly. As Jupiter has been teaching us to smile and laugh a lot. So if you just laugh at anything that is too persevering and too strong and too needy of people's time and attention and too needy of progress, it is going to be great. So take your time during this transit. Another thing that can be really, really mildly disturbing during this kind of transit is human beings might go into fatherly energy or really infantile energy. So overbearing, over the top father, like this is the accounts, you got to do the accounts, you know, like somebody's really like pushing your face into the paperwork, or really like making you do things that you perhaps don't really have to do in the end. You might, you know, come out of this retrograde in 2018 and find, I just did a lot of work for nothing. Like say the company burned down in the end, or maybe because of all that power and all that energy, the computers broke, and you know, we lost a lot of information. And also during Mercury retrograde, okay, we've got Mercury retrograde, Jupiter retrograde, that's all to do with knowledge and communication. Then you've got Uranus retrograde, burning down of software, computer systems, crashing, viruses, things getting lost, is not just likely, it's almost like impossible to avoid for a lot of people who spend a lot of their time in front of computers, living very unnaturalistic lives. So definitely step outside, smell the roses, and enjoy the fresh air. And yes, another thing that can happen is infantile experiences, because we've also got Saturn retrograde, things like that. You might actually find, because the paternal energies, the big boy planets are in retrograde, some people might step back and go, but I don't know anything, you know, I'm a little boy, or like I'm just a little flower, I just want to be touched and kissed and loved. I don't actually really want to know more. I want somebody else to step in and take care of business. So because of this, the political situation is really infantile at the moment. Things get closed because people are not putting in too much of themselves. Like say they're not putting in like they used to put in too much, and suddenly they let go of it. Maybe things will run smoothly for a while, and then people will realize that one person is like searching for some kind of fulfillment at a job that is not appropriate for the job. Maybe they're looking to be loved and cared for at the job. There could be like the syndrome where, you know, men especially maybe go to work and they're looking for nurture from their secretaries or from their co-workers, and they're not actually thinking about what they're doing at the job. It can get really personal. Work can get like really personal during this time, so be wary of that. So what's the best way to go around it, because it does feel very political and very toxic as an energy. It's very nice. I mean, it's given to us to step outside and to remember that we are forgiven, to go around, to smell the air, to enjoy the water, to enjoy the beach, to enjoy the mountains, to enjoy other people. It's never going to be enough almost of that in the next while, as I'm feeling that there is a thirst or a hunger for something that we don't actually understand as just nature and just nurture of ourselves. And as we're going into Taurus, it's also a very, very interesting time to give to yourself more. I mean, if you're watching this after Taurus transit, that's okay. So if you're still in Uranus retrograde, wherever you are during this period, it would be really nice to just like want more, want more. Like you might want to sit down and smash it out of the computer, or you will want to maybe love this person because they're really dedicated to their studies and you suddenly find it really sexy. Want more from life, want more. What's really interesting during this time is to decide that you want like say a baby, or you want a completely new home, or you decide that you really want a totally different new environment. You might want to change everything up completely. You may actually want more. You may want more. So whatever life presses at you, it's best not to get how can I say, disgruntled about things, because sometimes when you fixate during this kind of transit, you might get obsessed about that, and then everything else kind of like follows. So you might actually get a little bit out of life and you go, I'm obsessed with this is what I want, because it's a very obsessive energy. It's a very recommended energy. You feel like this is recommended. You might meet somebody and go, oh my god, that's my twin, or my gosh, like I can't go past it. Like there's a girl I just met, I can't go past her. I mean, Venus is not in retrograde, so we all go for relationships, right? And it's like, well, yes and no. Sometimes if you fixate during this time, because this is a very fixative sort of energy in retrograde, you may actually like to admit to yourself that nothing is important. Nothing is actually as big a deal as you might design for yourself during this time. So definitely step outside, have a look around, go camping, go around with people, like have a look at how people sit in bars, how people sit in restaurants, maybe make a little cozy group, talk about things, talk about nothing, talk about things apart from work. Make it uncool to talk about power. That's one thing is really cool, uncool to talk about power and how much you've developed as a human, uncool to talk about what you've achieved, uncool to talk about work. It's cool to just experience, just express. It doesn't matter who you've been and what you've done. It's just about being yourself and enjoying the sweetness of today. Thank you very much for your time. If you'd like a reading, I'll put my details in the link below. I have decided to upgrade my website, so that one's falling off and a new one is coming on. But yes, there should be a link to the new website if the website's no longer. So thank you very much for being here, and I've enjoyed chatting to you, and I'll chat to you another time. Thanks. Bye.